I successfully quit video games in my teens, and it was surprisingly easy. All I had to do was leave behind everything that had given me passion and purpose within the last couple years of my life. And after about 2 weeks of living like that, I no longer thought of myself as a gamer. I no longer thought about playing video games at all. And I no longer had any more cravings to game whatsoever. What I had done was reinvent myself by performing a mass digital exodus from my former life. Now I live the life of a free, happy, ambitious young man, no longer tethered to my console or obsessing over gaming whenever I have some spare time alone to myself. And I started this channel where I share my own insights about quitting video games. So you might be wondering to yourself, well, why would you do that? Why would you do something that extreme? Why would you cut everything off that you once enjoyed and you once loved and you once spent all your time doing? Well, the fact was, I knew that I had nothing to lose. I had nothing going for me in the beginning when I started playing video games. And I had nothing to lose by leaving this entire life behind that I had once enjoyed. There's nothing for me in this space that was online gaming, these different communities and these different friend groups that I'd hung out with, this whole gaming sphere within my life. There was nothing left for me inside of it, and I'd like to discuss that a bit. So let's say maybe I use Twitch every day, right? And I watch these different streamers. It's kind of this parasocial relationship. I'm in the chat, I'm watching these crazy things happen on stream, and I'm maybe sharing some details about myself. I'm trying to be part of this community that's bigger than me. I'm trying to fit in here. I might give my Prime Twitch sub to the streamer. I might post frequently in the chat and do all these different things. But the fact is that I will never fit in there properly because it's an impersonal relationship. There's nothing authentic about watching someone from behind a camera who doesn't even know that you exist and trying to coexist with these other faceless members in the chat. Like you're trying to fit in there. There's nothing organic about that interaction. So that's why I left Twitch behind. But I also left gaming behind in general because I realized that it was just a negative investment of my time. Once you start to value your time as a young man, once you start to realize that, oh, my time on this earth is valuable. I'm a mortal being. I'm not going to be here forever. So what I do with my time should be more important probably than just the pleasure, these dopamine hits that I get from completing these different tasks in gaming. All the rewards that gaming gives me probably aren't worth the expenditure of time and effort that I'm putting towards them. That's the mindset that you want to get to, and that's the mindset that brought me out of gaming in the first place. It's that, well, I have nothing to lose. I'm a young guy, so why don't I quit? Why don't I just do something with my life? Why don't I take some risks? Why don't I put myself out there in some different regards and try and make something happen in my life that's going to get me some kind of outsized reward, rather than just play it safe, keep grinding on the video games, putting in consistent effort, getting predictable, boring rewards that are only exciting because there's like flashes of dopamine and animations and all that kind of stuff. Why don't I leave that all behind and pursue real life success? That's the mindset that brought me out of games in the first place. And my next point about this is, I wrote down some points, but these gamer friends that you might have in person, they're probably not doing anything for you. Now, these might be your friends from early childhood. You go to school with them, you grew up around them, you have your inside jokes, you play these games with each other, maybe in the computer lab at lunch, maybe after school, you hop on Minecraft, you hop on Fortnite, whatever kids are playing these days, you do that, right? But they are the reason that you still consider yourself a gamer. They are the reason that you still are held back by gaming. They are the reason, largely, and it's not their fault, but they contribute to the reason where you log off of gaming, maybe at like midnight, at 3 a.m., just late at night. You come off the console, off of the call, off of the PC, and you say, what am I doing with my life? I have to go to school tomorrow. I have to wake up at 7 a.m. tomorrow to go to school, so I'm going to be sleep deprived. And then you wake up you wake up the next morning from this long gaming session and you are sleep deprived. You realize that you don't like your life. Your life sucks. And it's your decisions that have brought you here. But what's contributing to it is the environment that you've put yourself into. It's these people and these corporations that you associate with that offer you kind of this street drug of video games. Once you really think about it, video games are this street drug. They're this material that you keep consuming that you can't get yourself off of, and they offer you immediate pleasure by putting in minimal amounts of effort, right? That is gaming in a nutshell right there. It's electronic meth. It's electronic crack. So just think about that for a minute, right? When you play video games, your brain is so stimulated that you don't feel like sleeping, even if your body does want to sleep, and it is trying to tell you that you're tired. Your body does not want to go to sleep because your brain's doing this super engaging, hyper-stimulating task that humans were probably never even invented to do. So what I mean by saying all of this is that your environment contributes to your inability to quit video games. These people that you hang around, your gamer friends, they keep you back. And they can change. They may change one day. It might be too late, but it's not too late for you. Because you're watching this content, you're taking yourself seriously, you're waking up in the morning and you're saying, enough of this crap. I don't like this, screw this, I'm changing. So what should you do in that situation? Well, you have to cut off your different friends. You have to cut off your different gamer friends. You have to say to them, hey, I enjoyed the time that we were able to spend together, but I think that this is the end to a certain chapter in my life. You have to do what I said at the beginning of the video. You have to cut off everything that gave you passion and purpose in these last couple years of your life where you've been a hardcore gamer. You have to get with the program, say, I'm done with this, and just, what's the phrase? Tune out, don't show up. That kind of stuff, right? You have to pull out of the video game sphere. You have to actively rebel against this community, this giant community of young men who will never realize their potential. You have to rebel against that in favor of becoming more than you could be, or more than you are right now. So that ties up to my next point, where gamers have ambition, but they have no foresight. So you probably started playing video games because if I sat you down and I tried to interview you, you'd say, well, I'm a pretty ambitious person. I have a lot of energy. I might have like ADHD or something. Like my brain goes 10 different places at a time. I want to go out in the morning. I wake up and I want to do stuff with myself. I want to accomplish things. I want to gain a certain kind of respect with my peers. I want to learn a skill. I want to get good at it. I want to make something or achieve something that's greater than myself, right? That's a very masculine urge, and I think it's inherent to all of us, no matter if we're young men or older men or males of any age. That urge is inherent to us. And one of the easiest, the fastest, the cheapest ways to express that urge in today's world, in today's society, is video games, which is why so many men, therefore, turn to video games. But like I said before, video games get you nothing. So that's why we have to combine our ambition as gamers with discipline. We have to leave the gaming sphere and invest our life force, our energy, into the real world. Whatever that looks like. Maybe you want to build a great physique in the gym. Maybe you want to start martial arts and get really good at fighting. If you were once into fighting games, by the way, this is just a side note, but I used to be like really big into like platform fighting games, Super Smash Brothers, Tekken, Street Fighter, what have you. But when I learned that martial arts were a thing and that you could practice them from just being a beginner, I was enamored. So I started doing jiu-jitsu. I was hooked on that. Boxing, mixed martial arts, you have it. I became obsessed with that. So that's to say that you play video games for a certain reason, right? There's a certain urge that you have. There's this certain spark of inspiration that you have to play video games. And what game you play often reflects your personality in some sense, right? If you're very creative, maybe you're playing Minecraft. If you're very competitive, you're probably doing racing or fighting games. If you're strategic, then you're playing League of Legends, Dota, whatever. But that reason why you play video games in the first place can be realized in the real world, right? Why don't you stop playing League of Legends and instead try playing chess or something strategic like that? Why don't you start investing in stocks, predicting the stock market, predicting these rising and falling rates, right? There's so many different avenues for you to realize your potential in real life other than waste it on video games. And that's why I talk about in my course on Digital Exodus, my new school community. The link to that is in the description below. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested. I guarantee it'll help you on your journey to quit video games. So yeah, my next point is that you have to develop discipline, right? Trying to do stuff in the real world is awesome, but you're never going to want to do it. You're never going to want that level of uncertainty and risk and challenge and pain that is inherent to reality if you don't rewire your brain from that of a gamer. Because the thing with the gamer brain is, and this is some kind of bro science here, it's that gamers have what's called a dopamine dependence and a serotonin aversion. So dopamine is the pursuit chemical, right? It makes you want to pursue stuff. It makes you want to get more of whatever you're getting, right? Whereas serotonin is a stabilizing chemical within the brain. It helps you make wise decisions. It helps you think slowly. It helps you think over stuff in sort of a meticulous way. It helps you adapt, and it helps you thrive over long periods of life. It's kind of like a longer, slower burning version of dopamine. And the thing about gamers, the thing about people who play video games a lot, is that they don't get a lot of serotonin in their brain because dopamine just overrides it. So what they find themselves incapable of doing from basically too much exposure to gaming is they need certainty in anything that they're going to do. They need like zero risk, like minimal effort rewards for anything in real life, which is just a terrible, terrible strategy for approaching any kind of success in real life. You have to be okay with that uncertainty. You have to be okay with failure, especially if you want to quit video games and you want to realize, like I said, if you want to realize your potential in real life, you have to be okay with failure. You have to be okay with uncertainty. Like maybe this quitting video game thing won't work out now. Maybe this business that I'm starting won't work out right now. Maybe going to the gym today won't be the best experience that I've ever had, but it's necessary to build that knowledge, build that wisdom, build that experience in order to eventually find success at some point. And like I said, that's very tough for gamers to do. So what's the solution? Is that anything worth doing is going to require sacrifice, right? So returning to that point that I said about cutting off your gamer friends, well, you have to value quitting over social status if you are to quit video games properly. You have to know that you being free of this gaming addiction that binds you and holds you down and has been like a ball and a chain on your leg for the last couple of years that's imprisoned you, getting out of that is more important than being the most popular guy in the computer lounge at lunch. Being free of this addiction is more important than almost anything in your life at this point, bar like familial relationships, your own personal health, that kind of stuff. So therefore, you're probably going to have to sacrifice your friends, your social status in that friend group, and maybe your feeling of social fulfillment for at least like a short amount of time in order to quit video games. So let's say you do walk away from your friend group, right? Your friends probably won't like you doing that. Most people aren't comfortable with people trying to get better than they are, so they pull them down. They try and drag them down to their level by saying, hey, why are you doing that? Why are you climbing that high? All of us are down here. Do you think you're better than us? Do you think you have some kind of special gift that we don't have? That's what your friends are going to try and say to you in some way, whether they directly say it to you or they try and imply it. They're going to try and pull you down like crabs out of a bucket, right? One crab tries to crawl out of the bucket, the others pull him down, right? So that's the mindset that your friends are going to have. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be able to say, screw you guys, I'm not doing it. I'm going back to a normal life, or at least a better life, right? You have to be comfortable with doing that, but not necessarily saying it. So the actionable step then is to literally just follow through on that. You have to leave your old gamer friends behind. And besides that, you have to close your Discord account, leave the different Discord communities that you're in that encourage you to game, that make you relapse on gaming, that make you sit down like day one of trying to quit video games, and you go into Discord because that's where all your friends are, and then they're playing games, so you just go back to it. You have to cut out that whole part of your life. You have to surgically remove it. There's a quote from the Bible which says, if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out, for it's better to enter the kingdom of God without one eye than to enter hell with both eyes. Something like that. And this can be applied to this situation because it's better to be gaming free without these friends beside you, which aren't even that great quality friends anyways, by the way. It's better to be free of video games and to be alone as a person than to be on that grind, be beyond video games, and to have friends around you who probably aren't even that good quality and are going to grow up to be alcoholics and degenerates and gamblers and drug addicts, okay? So that's the sacrifice that's required for this. So go ahead and log out of your Discord account, cancel your Discord account, stop going to Twitch, remove the Twitch bookmark from your browser, delete your Twitch account. Any other gaming accounts that you may have, like Microsoft, Nintendo account, get rid of that. Get rid of all of that too. By the way, this is exactly what I did when I was about 15 years old and trying to quit video games. I just said, enough of this, screw it, I'm done. I am done. I'm not talking to these guys in the computer lab anymore. I'm not talking about games with them. I'm not having video game posters in my room. I'm not having my favorite video game as the background on my phone. On the computer, I'm deleting all these desktop games. Everything is gone. You got to do this spring cleaning, right? You got to clean out all the dust in your attic. You got to set your house in order before you go out and try to do some change in the world, and that's going to empower you. You have to tear down the old structure of a house, right? If I'm trying to renovate a house and the skeleton to it is like all rickety, the wood's rotted away, the bones, the stones like turning to dust, I gotta tear that down before I try and build a new foundation, right? Because if I don't, then the house is just going to collapse. It's just going to collapse in on itself at some point because I didn't improve anything. I just tried to build on the very, very bad, very old, very crumbly foundation. So that's what you have to do as well. You have to tear down the old house before you start a new foundation. So yeah, enough about your gamer friends. But real men watching this, real courageous men watching this, are going to follow through on this step immediately. There's no time for this thinking about it. There's no time for this delegating, like journaling about it. It's about, do you want to quit video games? Yes or no? And if it's yes, then you have to go ahead with this step. There's no other way around it. I'm sorry. And it might hurt for some time, but once you get out of that pit, once you crawl out of that pit and don't get kicked back in by any kind of force, just through sheer force of will, then you'll come out on the other side knowing that you made the right decision. And then you can start focusing on other skills that you want to build. So since then, I've gotten into food, I've gotten into fitness, I've learned how to cook, I've learned how to build muscle, I've learned how to exercise effectively, I've learned some wonderful social skills, and most importantly, I've learned how to live properly. I've learned how to balance out pleasure in my life with real work, real effective things that I can get done every single day that contribute to goals that I want to accomplish. So yeah, those are all the benefits that you can enjoy once you've put aside these different influences of games that are just so terrible for you and learned how to live life properly. So my next point is that gaming is basically a scam. Gaming is basically just another fodder for the masses. Gaming is like modern day, just like slop. Never before in history, I don't think, has there ever been this media which you can consume for 20 hours a day straight and never get tired of it. Gaming is something very, very special, but the reason it's so widespread and so popular today is because it's profitable. It's because Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo, they know that people like it. They know that young men like us are attracted to gaming, that we like this process of leveling up and moving around and doing stuff. So they spend billions on trying to get us hooked. And because of that, they profit ever more billions. Because we've been suckered into it. What I'm trying to say here is that gaming is basically the greatest scam of our generation, I think. Yeah, the greatest scam of our generation is the best way to put it, because if you look at gaming advertising, they only advertise the upsides to it. Obviously, they advertise that it's wholesome family fun. They display it as harmless, and there's these beautiful people playing it, and they live balanced lives, and there's like these epic battle scenes you can involve yourself in, and it'll give you purpose to your life and all this different stuff, which is partially true. But you have to realize at this point that these game developers aren't your friends. Shigeru Miyamoto is not your friend. Frickin' Reggie Fils-Aimé is not your friend. Gabe Newell is not your friend. Bill Gates is not your friend. We have all these little ideas about these overlord corporations that make these games for us, that make these holograms that we project ourselves onto and that we obsess ourselves with for hours and hours and hours a day. And that sounds so dystopian, and it should. You should be disturbed by that little monologue that I just went on about this fact that we're reliant on these mega billion-dollar corporations, these different Skynets that make us these little prepackaged video games that we love to involve ourselves with and that we love to tickle our brains with. That should be disturbing because, well, like, honestly, it just is. This is not a danger of capitalism, I don't think, so much as it is just a moral failure, a failure of discipline on young men's part. And it's also probably the failure of our parents as well. Like, they should have been able to call this out when it started and been able to realize the trajectory that this was going to go on. They should have been able to realize earlier that, hey, this is a bad thing. This is worse than anything we could have predicted before for our children's development, especially our boys. And maybe we should keep them away from this. Maybe we should lobby against these corporations, but they didn't. They never saw it coming. Maybe because it was an underground thing. But now that gaming is so mainstream, young men are at more of a risk than ever. And that's the mission of my channel, to rescue, not necessarily to rescue, but just to free, just to liberate as many young men from their gaming addictions as I can. And that's why I'm going to post consistently. I'm going to upload maybe like 2-3 times a week in order to free you and young guys just like you, if you're still watching this, from this gaming addiction. And yeah, that's my mission here. So, moral of the story, your gamer friends are not your friends. The gaming developers are not your friends. The different streamers and YouTubers that you used to watch who talk about video games and play video games and obsess over video games are not your friends. I'm looking at the recent ads for the Nintendo Switch 2. I heard about it on the news recently. I don't watch the news quite frequently, but I just heard this one thing where they're showing off the Nintendo Switch 2 across all these different cities in the US, Canada, Europe, whatever. And there's like full-grown adults here, right? A lot of Nintendo, Sony, Xbox's audience are full-grown adults, which is just depressing. But there's these full-grown adults obsessing over these different consoles, and I find that pathetic. I think that the millennial generation, the Gen Z generation, has been failed. They have been let down by their parents, which might be a result of boomer society. But I think that we're in a really deep hole right now when it comes to gaming, and we got hard times coming in the future, which maybe is the topic for another video, but we have to properly prepare for that. And video games are no way to build good, responsible adults who are going to fight for things like freedom and democracy and, yeah, all that good stuff against the forces to come, probably from the East, in the very near future. These are no people who are cut out for a war. And I think that might be a topic for another video. So I'm going to leave it there. Go ahead and check out, click around the screen. There's going to be another video about gaming tactics at some point. So go ahead and check that out. I'll see you.